All right, let's see. Let's take a look. I think we have most of our folks here. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to our first alumni showcase. My name is Jennifer Billow. I'm the Associate Director of the Park City Education Foundation. Just a little background on PCEF for those of you who might not know. We lead the community in funding initiatives that inspire all Park City students to successfully reach their academic and lifelong potential. And we've been doing this since 1986. And we exist because Utah is the lowest funded public education system in the country. We are 51st. So that's not a great equation. And then secondly, 96% of our state collected education tax dollars go to other districts. So that is a tough equation, and the Park City Ed Foundation and our donors and volunteers work to change that. So we work to change that equation by, you can go ahead and change the slide, Mitch, by providing funds for these 8 core programs: the preschool program in Park City School District, the elementary visual art program that provides art lessons for 1,500 students, the after school program K through 9 that supports 500 students, classroom and emergency express grants across the entire district. At the high school, we have the PCCAPS and Bright Futures program. We fund STEM programs across the district, and our Idea Lab, which gives students and teachers a voice in education. Thank you, Mitch, for that. A little bit of housekeeping. We are recording the event tonight, and so we'll send out the recording next week with some follow-up, and so look for that. And we do have our student panel who will be answering questions from our moderator, Park City High School counselor Dara Smith, and myself, but we will open it up for a Q&A for the last 15 minutes of the hour. And so for your questions, be sure you put them in the chat. We have 2 pages of screen on here, so I might miss you if you raise your hand. So put your questions in the chat, and if you want to ask one of our alumni specifically, please put their name in the chat as well. I do want to note a special guest. We have the superintendent of the Park City School District, Dr. Jill Gilday, here tonight, cheering there happily. So happy that so many alumni are here, and thank you for joining us, Dr. Jill. And our executive director, Abby McNulty, will be joining us shortly. I also want to do a special shout out and thank you to our Scholar Circle members. They are the leadership donors to the Park City Education Foundation and help us provide $1.5 million in program funding to the Park City School District every year. So moving on to our main event, like the rest of the world, the pandemic has definitely caused a shift in our work, but one of the silver linings is we can do an event like this with alumni who are literally all over the United States from coast to coast. So that is a silver lining. The biggest thing that hasn't changed in this pandemic is our dedication to making sure our students achieve their academic and lifelong potential. And we're going to see some of that tonight. For 40 to 50% of our students who go on to 4-year colleges, they want to go out of state or to highly selective universities. And so that's a path that many parents are interested in. And then, but from there, many of our students follow these career paths that we have no idea as parents, what they were doing. The other thing I hope you'll learn tonight is that the resources and faculty at Park City High and within our Park City community help our kids set them up to achieve their wildest dreams. And the Ed Foundation is proud to play a part thanks to your donations. And frankly, I can't imagine another mountain town community that has the quality of rigor or the diverse academic choices or the community opportunities that our students have. And I think some of our alumni here tonight might speak about that. So we are thrilled to welcome our 6 Park City High School alumni to talk about their experiences beyond high school and college and the different places that their careers have taken them to. First, I would like to introduce high school counselor Dara Smith. And just ask, Dara, I wanted to ask you a few quick questions to kind of set up the stage here. So how does the counseling office at Park City High help students achieve their college dreams?
Well, first, good evening, everybody. I think that our department is really individualized. We meet with all of our students every year, so 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, individually, in order to customize their pathway for exactly what it is that they want. We also, our curriculum is truly built around college and career readiness. And so we start those conversations, well, before they even get to high school, but we start with those conversations about, we get to take care of you while you're here in high school, but we want to prepare you for what's to come in 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. We especially dedicate our whole first semester, for the most part, to seniors and their college applications and their college process and what is individualized to them. We help with their class planning, their pathway planning, so that we are directing them, hopefully, into the pathways and the classes that will help support what their college and career aspirations are. We do professional development so that we can know about all of the many college options that are out there. And we invite colleges to come to Park City High School. And in a normal year, when there isn't COVID, we probably host 100 to 120 college visits, the majority of them, from outside of the state, to come and share that information with our students. So I think a lot of it is just that we individualize our pathways for our students, and we include parents, because college and life after high school absolutely is a family affair. And so we want parent input, and we welcome that, and we encourage our parents to participate in at least one meeting with us a year. So it's a little bit, there's so much I could say.
Right. Yeah, it is amazing what you guys do. I think a lot of the students on this call are alumni, have taken AP classes, which has, helped them kind of move through college faster in some ways. How many AP classes are available at the high school? And maybe you can name a couple of them.
Well, so on any given year, because we kind of have to trade off in some of them, we have 25 to 27 a year. There's 36 total AP courses that are available. And the ones that we don't offer are usually in the languages that we don't offer, like German, Italian, Chinese, that really advanced, some of the art classes. But we have every single science AP class, AP Bio, AP Chem, AP Physics 1, 2, and C, which is way beyond my abilities, AP Environmental Science, all of the math classes, so AP Statistics, AP Calculus, AB, and BC. So next year we'll have AP Music Theory. We didn't offer that this year. Certain years we offer AP European History. So most of the social sciences we offer. This is my 4th high school to work at, and by far the most AP. So when I started here, I was like, wow, this is amazing. So a lot of offerings. We've also very much increased the concurrent enrollment offerings that are available. I think in the first year I was here in 2008, 2009, there was probably less than 10 classes, and now we are well over 20 classes. I think it's 25 concurrent enrollment. So we're improving the rigor, as well as just making a variety of options available for students to go on their pathway to help them with what it is that's important to them.
And Dara, concurrent enrollment, meaning you get college credit when you take that class, correct?
Correct. Versus AP, you get college credit if you pass the AP exam. That's in May. Next week is when our AP starts. And then certain colleges will or won't take AP scores at a certain score. 3, 4, 5 is usually where the most generous colleges will offer college credits. Whereas our concurrent enrollment, you're automatically, if you pass that class with a certain grade, given college credit. But again, when you leave the state, it's all dependent on what those colleges will accept for credit.
Right. Thank you. If we have time, I might ask you a couple more questions, but I think we definitely want to move on and hear from our alumni. So Dara, why don't you go ahead and take it away? I know you have some questions for them.
I do. And I'm going to actually point out certain students' names. Okay, you're not students any longer, our alumni names, just so that you're prepared. So I'm going to ask actually each of you to share just a little 30-second synopsis of what you've done since you've graduated from Park City High School, the college that you went to, and what you're doing now. So I'm going to start with the student that I had. So I'm going to start with Emily, if you'll share when you graduated, where you went to college, and what you've been doing.
Of course, yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Emily Billow. I grew up in Park City and graduated from PC High in 2017. And I then started college at the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts. And I graduated this last December of 2020. So I'm a bit more fresh out of school than the other panelists, but I'm now working as a video editor for the Food and Travel Network Tastemade. And then just working on my own videos and other art projects in my other spare time.
Thank you, Emily. We'll go on to the next one, who's like our next graduate beyond you. So Leslie Rodriguez, share when you graduated, where you went to school, and what you've been doing.
Awesome. So I'm Leslie, and I graduated from Park City High School in 2015. I then attended Seattle Pacific University and graduated in 2019 with a BS in biochemistry. And right now I am working in a COVID-19 lab led by the Seattle Flu Study at UW, or University of Washington, excuse me.
Excellent. Go Huskies. Okay, that's my alumni. Kind of keeping on track with our graduating list. You guys might not know that I know this, but I'm going to move on to Molly Levens. When did you graduate Park City? Where did you go? And what have you been doing since?
I graduated in 2014, and then I took a gap year that was intended to be ski racing, but I had a crash in my very first ski race, so had a little bit of a limbo year, but you always learn the most in limbo. I then went to Harvard College in Boston and designed my own major in food and the environment. And I now work remotely for a company called the Sustainable Food Lab. They're based in Vermont, and I help large food companies improve the sustainability of their supply chain. And hopefully going to China next year for grad school. I've been accepted to the program, but we are unsure if it will be remote or not yet.
That's so cool. Crossing my fingers you get to go. Okay, on to Joe, if you will share your little bio.
Hey, I'm Joe. I graduated in 2013 and I went to Northeastern University and got a degree in journalism. Graduated in 2018. And now I'm a photographer in New York, photographing travel and architecture. Clients including Four Seasons and Qatar Tourism Board and Marriott Hotels and Condé Nast Traveler.
That's so cool. I actually read the little bio that said you didn't take a single photography class in college.
Yeah, that's correct.
So cool. Okay, Grant Sanderson, want to share with us when you graduated high school and where you went and what you've been doing?
Sure. I graduated in 2011, and thereafter I went to Stanford for university. I studied math, and the way I always phrase it, I was heavily seduced by computer science along the way, so took about as many classes there. And I ended up working for Khan Academy shortly after I graduated, making videos about math and doing various other things for their platform. And then after that, I had like a YouTube channel that was a thing on the side, but I started just doubling down on that. And so now I run a YouTube channel, which is also about math, and it's called 3 Blue and Brown. And that like has a bunch of ancillary things that sometimes come up. Like I was helping with an MIT course about computational thinking last semester. And then I've worked with some other like online education companies in the midst, but the channel is the main gig.
Wow. Okay, and then so I worked at Park City High School with all of these first alums, but I do not know Jesus Loya. So we'll save the first for last.
Awesome. Thank you, Dara. And hi, everyone. I'm Jesus Loya. I'm originally from another small mining town in Santa Barbara, Chihuahua, Mexico. My dad has spent about 30 years working as a miner. So no wonder I ended up going to Park City High School, #GoMiners. I actually came to the States when I was 14 years old. And I came here without my parents. And thanks to the help and support of my high school teachers, I managed to finish high school at the age of 16 back in 2000. And then from there, I went to the U. I'm a first-generation college student. I graduated with an MBA and also a master's in electrical and computer engineering. And I now work in venture capital, where I get to help entrepreneurs every day from Silicon Valley and across the nation grow their startup companies.
Thank you, everybody. I want you to know that they gave such short little synopsises of their lives since then, and it's so much more impressive when I got to talk with Jen and also read about you guys. So we also have very humble graduates from Park City High School. I'm going to actually ask 3 of you a couple questions. I'm going to start actually with Molly, Jesus, and Joe. So just to get you guys ready. So I'll start with Molly. How has living and going to school in Park City helped you or prepared you for your college experience and what you're doing now, Molly?
In a lot of ways. I most obviously just the access to the outdoors, and something I took for granted growing up, and then leaving and going to a city and then coming back after graduation back to Park City. I'm like, this is unbelievable, you know? And that I now work in the environmental field. And so I credit a lot of my inspiration to growing up in Park City, a place that so many people shared that love, and taking AP Environmental Science with Mr. Mulick, and taking AP Bio, and just so many of the incredible teachers. And one of the themes of this panel is unconventionality, and I missed 100 of the 180 school days my junior year of high school because I was racing all around the world as a ski racer. And so trying to piece together my high school education I was taking summer classes and online classes and AP classes, but I was self-teaching most of them. And it was like, unconventional. And so I think then going to college, and I was just being in one place for 4 years, I was like, oh, this is easy. I've done so many more hectic things throughout my high school experience. So I will leave it at that.
This is true. I remember you, Molly, being in high school. So being there when you were there. So I'm going to go to Joe. So Joe, can you answer that question?
Yeah, so I think just being in Park City, the environment kind of encourages you to think outside the box, and there's so many different people doing different things. And ending high school, there was just so many possibilities, I felt, and people were encouraging you to kind of go and do whatever you felt like you were best at doing. And when I finished high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I think throughout that process, I was able to be exposed to so many different things. And I think one of the things that led to me being interested in photography was going on a trip through David Nell's Chinese course and going to China and photographing in China. And I think that was kind of one of the sparks that got me interested in travel and photography and architecture and things like that. So just so many different experiences at Park City High kind of opened me up to so many different things that I got interested in.
Excellent. Did you happen to take a photography class while you were in high school?
Unfortunately, I did not, but.
Love it. Okay, I'm going to move to Jesus. If you could answer, like, how living in Park City and going to Park City High School helped you and prepared you kind of for your college experience and what you're doing now.
Absolutely. So for me, it was my 2 teachers, my math teacher, Donna Hall, who I believe is now teaching at Treasure Mountain, and also my Spanish teacher, Jerry Esplin. So Donna Hall, one day, I remember like if it was yesterday, took the courage to just to talk to me and tell me what I needed to hear, and not necessarily what I wanted to hear at that particular time in my life. So at one point in time, she thought that, I was being a little getting ahead of myself by, she essentially thought that I was cheating in exams because I would skip classes sometimes and not do my homework, and mostly because I was working 2 full-time jobs. But she realized that math came very naturally to me. But she pretty much told me that, if I didn't do anything to change my work ethic when it came to school at that time, that was going to come and hunt me, not just academically, but throughout my life. And that was really good and profound advice, especially, for me being 14 years old. So I essentially, got my act together. And thanks to that conversation, I ended up doing really well at the University of Utah. I ended up becoming one of 3 students across 2,000 students in the entire College of Engineering to graduate with honors. And Jerry Esplin, she's my hero. And in fact, she's a national hero. She taught me how to really embrace adversity and to not be afraid to express my talents and to use those talents to serve other people. So in 2001, she encouraged me, along with another really good friend of mine, to share our story, our immigrant story, to Senator Orrin Hatch. And little did we know that our story and our collective actions were going to inspire Senator Orrin Hatch to reach across the aisle and get Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois to introduce the DREAM Act, also known as DACA, which became a national movement. And at the state level here in Utah, what that did was, it made it possible for undocumented students like myself to go to any Utah university and paying state tuition. So for me, I owe my career to Jerry Esplin. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for her. And I also been very, very fortunate to advocate for immigration reform at the national level, and also encouraging people from the tech and Silicon and also the venture capital world, both in Silicon Valley and here in Utah, people like Mark Zuckerberg, to use their influence and meet with President Obama and members of Congress to do something about this important issue. And Park City has always continued to play a key factor in my life. Also, when I finished college, I got the opportunity to dive into the venture capital world by working with the Park City Angels, which is the largest group of angel investors here in the state of Utah. And that's how I learned about venture capital. And thanks to both the academic experiences that I had and the professional experiences, I was able to put my case together in front of USCIS and the Department of State to get a national interest waiver. I'm essentially the first dreamer or DACA recipient to ever get a green card the way I did. I'm on 1.8 million people, essentially. So this is what Jerry Esplin did, not only for me, but for people across the nation. And that story came from Park City. And so just like my mentors, I always look for ways to pay it forward. I'm now involved with Bright Futures, which Jan mentioned, and it's an amazing program helping first generation students, as well as I'm also mentor with SOS Outreach. It's also a great program, that provide, the students the ability to go and enjoy the outdoors and also work on the networking skills. So I'm very thankful for those opportunities. And at the same time, last but not least, I've been able to found the love of my life here in Park City. So what can I say? I mean, Park City has been so good to me. I'm super grateful. And so I'm happy for to see and hear about all the different resources that are now available in this great community. And you all are making a meaningful impact and allowing more and more of our students to go out there and achieve the American dream.
Oh my gosh, I've seen your name so many times, Jesus, and I have chills listening to your story. I'm so glad you shared that. I'm going to move on to a couple of, or 3 of the other of our panelists. And I'm going to ask Emily and Leslie and Grant, just what has been unexpected about your journey so far? So I'll start backwards and I'll start with Grant. What has been unexpected about your journey so far?
Oh, what hasn't been? I mean, I definitely left college kind of with a vague sense of wanting to do more math and thinking like, oh, maybe I'll be a mathematician, but also thinking like software engineering. Um, I was not really like a video creator type at all. That's not something I had really dabbled with all that much. So the fact that that would become a dominant part of what I was doing, it's like very out of left field. And I think this is one of the biggest things to be cognizant of when someone is thinking about the influence that happens at the level of high school or before, is often the things that someone's doing later in life like comes out of the blue, and it wasn't something they were anticipating then. So instead there's like a broader set of like skills and flexibility that ends up being relevant. Definitely a lot of the people that I've met through that, or just I don't know, like engaging with a little bit more of a creative side when otherwise I'm like kind of a techie at heart. Just like almost everything categorizing the path as something that me from like 6-7 years ago would not have predicted in any way.
Thank you. I know we don't get to plan our pathway, right? Necessarily. Who would have thought COVID? I'm going to move on and ask Leslie. So what has been unexpected about your journey so far?
Gosh, when that's such a question with so many answers, but I guess for me would have to be how interconnected networking and unexpected opportunities are. I definitely was aware of this while I was in high school, but it definitely became key when I was in college, like with who I connected with as professors, and the suggestions that they made for me to do other things. And then also in the careers I've had there, like I worked several jobs all throughout college, but it's just amazing to see how, because of knowing this one person, it opens up so many doorways to do so many other things. Like I would have never thought, like this time last year, I would have never thought that I'd be back working in a lab, especially a COVID lab. And life is just so crazy. And I honestly, I don't think I'd be living the life I am now if I hadn't taken the opportunity to go to college out of state or went to the school that I went to, or had the mentors that I had. It's all interconnected.
That networking component. And it sounds like being brave to reach out to those other people also. Good job. I read in your little bio that you are studying for the MCATs.
Yes, so I am currently studying for the MCAT. I plan on applying on the next cycle, so in 2022, if everything goes well. But yeah, despite everything, I've always had an interest in medicine, but through the exposure, some of the classes that Park City High School offered, I went into college knowing that that's where I wanted to go to, or that's what I wanted to do later on in life. But despite all the work that I've done, even working in a clinical lab, my mind is still on medicine. So hopefully everything goes well.
I hope so too. Thanks, Leslie. Okay, Emily, I'm going to ask you, what has been unexpected about your journey so far?
Yeah, for me, the biggest kind of surprise in my journey had been discovering what I love to do and what I could get into college for, like just so late in the game. It felt like for me, like especially for a field like film and digital media, it would usually require a good amount of maybe like past experience before jumping into any big name film school in the country, not to mention USC. So to give more background, I didn't actually take any film classes until my junior year at Park City High, which was, I guess, compared to the other film students, it was very late in the process. A lot of those kids have been in the program for much longer. And then also late in terms of the college admission like schedule, because it was later that year that I had to start applying to schools. So just generally in the first part of high school, I was kind of feeling like lost. So for me to discover like filmmaking and fall in love with it at 2017 was really cool and surprising, and then more surprising to just get into USC at all. And then because of that, maybe not being as confident or as confident in my abilities because I was so new to the field, like entering my freshman year, I may have thought that I might not be as successful as some of the other students, but in reality, I have had an incredible college experience. I was able to complete my degree in 3.5 years and hit some really major goals. So, and some of that being in the pandemic. So I think Park City helped me with all of that.
So just curious, how is it that you got to finish in 3.5 years?
Well, I think that the AP classes I took at Park City were a big part of that. So I already had some credits going in to USC, and then at USC I was taking a very full load every semester. So I was able to just get those done.
That's awesome. As your counselor, I remember the late in the game, and I'm so sorry if I gave you any of my, okay, you want to do that? Oh, okay, we got this. Okay. So,
no, you're good.
Well, thank you, graduates. I'm going to actually kind of pass this back over to Jen. I think she might have some questions as well, or chat box. I see the chat going as well.
Yeah, so we wanted to be sure that all of you in the audience had an opportunity to ask our alumni some questions. I do have one that I want to start off with to Molly. And, I do remember you were an incredible downhill ski racer. And I just was curious, why you decided to go to Park City High rather than the winter school, because we do have this, great winter school opportunity for winter athletes. Because, when you talked about I missed 100 days out of the 180 my junior year, that is difficult. So what went into that decision?
AP classes, and I'm sitting on the board of the Park City Ed Foundation, and I was involved in other clubs at the high school, and I think it was also good for me to have some sort of separation. People who go to the winter school and they spend all summer studying with a group of students and spend all winter skiing with those students, and during the summers I would take courses at Northwestern University, and I had a summer internship there the summer before my senior year. And so I was just excited about the opportunities that were at the high school. And at this point, the winter school has expanded since when I was in high school. And so I think that a lot of those opportunities are now there, and the integration between those two schools is higher, so that you can probably take part in a lot of the same programming. But there was a point in which the US team, which is where I was racing my junior year, they had said, if you want to race with us next year, you can't go to public high school. You have to join the team academy, which is their kind of fake high school, so that they could graduate kids. Or you already have enough credits, we can graduate you. Do you want to graduate? You should graduate. And I was like, no, I'm going to take ethics with Mr. Nagel. I'm going to do all this stuff at the high school that I was excited to do. And so despite I could have graduated high school in the 3 years through kind of a side door that the skiing route had offered, but really glad that I stayed at the high school.
We are too, Molly. We were glad you were on our board. Thank you. So again, because it's hard for me to see everybody at once, does anyone have a question? Do they want to put it in the chat? And if you wanted to ask someone specifically, please put their name out. Any questions out there? Okay, so Jen O'Brien has a question, and Jen, you didn't name a certain person, but what advice would you all give to current high schoolers? That's a great question. Maybe Grant, you want to start us off? What advice would you give to this year's graduating class?
I mean, it would more or less echo what Leslie's sentiments were, which is that networking and who you know actually matters probably more than almost anything else. And what that means is that your goal in the high school experience, and then even more so your goal in the college experience, is not really about the classes that you're taking. There's sometimes a specific skill set you might be looking to gain, but you should go in thinking like, the one thing I want to get out is a set of people that I have some kind of close connection with. Maybe they're future coworkers, maybe that's like a mentor that you might have. Maybe it's people by seeing their life path that influences what yours will be. Like if I look back on my time at Stanford and say like, where was the value there? And I really feel like it was a lot. It has everything to do with the people that I met that I'm still connected with now. Whereas like younger me in high school, it's so easy to get in the habit of thinking that like academics are everything. And I was definitely when I was just like, just try hard in all of the classes. And you don't really step back at that age and think about like the highest order bits in life lying elsewhere. So it's cliched because people say it a lot. It's like it's a who you know world and such, but sometimes taking cliches to heart matters.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. Thank you, Grant. We have a question for Jesus. How would you describe the challenges that potential first generation college students face today in comparison to the ones that you faced? What's improved? What's harder?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. So back in the day when I went to school, we didn't have some of the resources we have now. Like there was no Bright Futures, for instance, right? Who's doing an amazing job of connecting first generation students and serving as a bridge between college and high school. So I didn't have that. So I had to pretty much pave the way and figure that out on my own. So that was really difficult. And it just pleases me to know that, that's not the case anymore for first generation students. I think what's still really hard is just access to funding. Oftentimes, a lot of students don't know all the different scholarships that are available to them, both locally and also the state level and even nationally. So there are actually, different applications out there that, I wish more students knew about. So for instance, there's one specifically for undocumented students that they can just go and use an app and find every potential application, scholarship available nationwide. So certainly, making it, creating more awareness at the high school, even, middle school level that scholarships are available and knowing and giving that information to students early on, I think that will be beneficial. And also mentors, they play a significant role. Just like, for myself, having my math and my Spanish teacher at high school, often students, are afraid of like taking on opportunities where they can get mentorship. So also having that, students, first generation students, partake on opportunities like that early on and start networking, even when they're in high school, I think, they'll be better off by the time they get to college if they start doing that.
Thank you, Jesus. That's a great answer. And, Ernest is asking, maybe we'll ask two people this. Let's start with you, Molly. How important is it to have mentors help you during your high school and college years?
Important. Everyone's been saying this of like networking matters, but saying that to a high schooler, people would always say that to me. And it's terrifying to know where to begin and how to ask for help and how to manage those relationships. And at first it might seem like you're forcing it. Especially in high school. Yeah, networking is also easier when you have a really clear idea of the path you want to go on. So if you're trying to find a mentor and I want to go to film school, then you seek out a mentor that maybe went to film school and works in that industry. But for a high schooler that's like, I don't know if I want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a mathematician, then trying to find a mentor, in each one of those fields, that is like a very overwhelming question. So and this is a small detail, but just having people that can write letters of recommendation. And so that often, I would say, if you want to, as many things in life, explore a lot, but also dive deeply into kind of things that really excite you. And so with mentors, you want to seek advice from as many people as possible, but then also maybe choose a few that you're like, these are really people that can support me long-term, and investing strongly in those select few relationships, then they will be able to write you stronger letters of recommendation. So, making sure that at the end of college, at the end of high school, and then certainly at the end of college, you have at least a couple people that you're like, they have my back, they know me, they know my interests, they know where I stand.
Leslie, I think this is an interesting question for you because, you really charted this path, being the first generation Latina to, leave Park City and go to an out-of-state college. And so, wondering about the mentors who helped you and when you first got to college, if you felt kind of alone or did you find mentors there? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think having mentors is very essential to being successful with life after high school. During my high school career, I was very close to Ernest, to Miss Williams, and to Mr. Jensen. Those were my support. And it was a very hard process, just like that decision to decide I want to go out of state it was very hard, especially just thinking about the for somebody first generation, financially, how I'm going to do that, or culturally as well, staying at home was more preferable. But my mentors were my support through it all, and despite all these obstacles that appeared very ginormous at the time, they always motivated me to continue going forward and see what I would get out of this. And my work really paid off with her, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without their help. And once I started college, I was still in contact with them. I would still call or text them and keep them updated on what I'm doing. But then eventually, as I got familiar with my college and my professors, I eventually just started to naturally branch out and because I went to a private school, so it was a lot smaller community, and I had the opportunity to get to know my professors that way. And so naturally through that, I was able to develop a network up there, but also establish some really close relationships with some of my professors, which are very keen now to my application for the MCAT, since they're going to be they're going to write me a letters of recommendation. But yes, that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Joe and Emily, there was another question about what advice would you give this year's graduating class? And I know it might be, a lot of similar things, but if you think back, what do you wish someone had told you as you were getting ready to graduate? So Joe, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that I wish I knew is that there's so many different opportunities out there that are not just kind of the traditional route, and that are new jobs that you can create or that have just come up in the past few years. Because I think Grant would agree that neither him or I would have seen what kind of career we've taken just even like 5 years ago, just because of how technology progresses in social media. So I think just knowing that you could go out and create a career and not just look on the job board and see what's there, but kind of really follow what you're passionate about and dive into what you're good at and kind of double down on that, and then kind of follow the opportunities that come from that, because there are so many opportunities if you follow your passions. And it sounds cliche, but it's kind of proven true for me, is that kind of doubling down on what I've liked and really enjoyed has really resulted in a lot more than if I just kind of followed a traditional route and kind of thought, well, these classes lead to this sort of job and I'll get this degree and do this. Because I think a lot of the classes and a lot of the classes I took wasn't really didn't directly result in what I'm doing now, but all of the experiences kind of combined into me figuring out what I enjoy to do and what opportunities are out there.
I'm just curious, how did you get your first, I don't know if it was paid or influencer, photography gig?
Yeah, it was just when I was in Boston. When I moved to Boston, I really got into photography, just photographing the city. And I had been doing it for a couple years, and I really wanted to get some more client work because, you have time during university where you're not pressured to be making money. Thankfully, I didn't. So I was able to just go out to the clients that I would want to shoot for in maybe 5 years and say, hey, I'll do work for free. And then just kind of built up a portfolio and made those connections. And I think, as I was saying before, the connections are so important. So some of those relationships where I did work for free now have led to some of my most profitable clients that I'm working with today. So it's just kind of those little things, just kind of testing the waters, sees what works and what doesn't work, and just kind of going with it.
I love that. I love your advice to not just look at the job board. I think that's really good advice. So Emily, for you, what would you say to this year's graduating class, or what do you wish someone had said to you when you were graduating, besides me, of course?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything that everyone else has said here, especially the mentor's point, but thinking about other things, I would say while at the same time, you do need to be focused on your goals in college, I would say also venture out of your comfort zone. Obviously, I think taking either classes or extracurricular kind of campus activity clubs, other things that you don't think you will have an interest in, would actually, I think, is something that I wish I have done more of. I would have done more of now that I've just graduated, because I was very focused on my path and getting done and like finding what I want to do. But I think there's so much beauty in experiencing the other aspects of college life that a lot of, especially with this theme of this panel, seniors who are maybe going to these out of state, more higher end colleges, like maybe very focused on those sorts of paths. But I think there is opportunity to do other things.
Molly, I'm going to pick on you for a minute, just because I know a little bit of your story at Harvard. You created your own major there, degree, and you did not follow a typical path at all, because I believe you took time out at least once or twice to do some very unusual internships. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I have a joke amongst my friends that you get a gap year for every time you get a degree. And so I'm like 2.5 degrees in, I get like 2.5, but just taking time off whenever, because life just continues to get faster and faster and faster as you get older, and the responsibilities just build up. And so when you have the opportunity to explore and to try something new and develop yourself, definitely grab that. I also really quickly just want to validate so much of what Joe was saying about not looking on what's his job board and saying what interests me and making that opportunity for yourself. And I currently work as a data analyst and did not take a single data, statistics, math, computer science course all of college. I took AP Stat in high school from Mrs. Alcox, and that has suited me very well. So if you're willing to just dive in, the first time they offered me the job, they're like, we need, they had 3 tasks, and I knew how to do 2 of the tasks and I didn't know how to do the third, but I was like, oh yeah, no problem. And they're like, if you're willing to kind of Google it and like call friends and figure it out, there's a lot of opportunities out there. So I took a semester off halfway through college, which was for me really great. It's you do 2 years. It was a chance to kind of look up and reevaluate where I was and make sure that I took advantage of my last 2 years at college. And I had a fellowship to do research on cocoa farmers in Central America. So I spent a month and a half in Guatemala and a month in Belize. And then that led to a 2-year cocoa research escapade where I just dove right in and ended up throughout college, got funding from the university to travel to 30 different countries. And I ended up writing like a 200-page senior thesis all about the chocolate industry, and now work and consult large coffee companies on how to do exactly what my thesis, spoke about. So I never could have anticipated this job, and they just reached out to me and were like, we heard that you have expertise in calculating income for smallholder farmers. And I was like, I have a niche skill set, but I'm going to draw on it. And we're just going to go from there. So Yeah, I can't even remember what your initial question was, just about unconventionality, but even at college, I lived in a very unconventional cooperative living house, and I just kind of was excited by the peripheries of the university as much as I loved kind of a lot of the traditional aspects of it.
That's awesome. Each of you have taken such an incredible journey, and it seems like you have all ended up in places that you didn't expect. We're winding up here, and so if there's any other questions, please. Oh, Ben's raising his hand. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks, Jen. I just had to come off mute there. Jesus, this one's for you. We know each other a little bit. I don't think we've actually ever met face to face. We've actually had the same job in the past, and I'm interested about your journey, kind of from engineering into venture capital, and how you found that pathway, and where you are now.
Hey, Ben. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to meet, but we crossed paths. We could cross paths through Pecan. But yeah, no, for me, what got me into venture capital was my senior thesis design at the University of Utah. Essentially, a group of students and myself, we created a microcontroller to allow people with disabilities to pretty much control, be able to use the internet with a SIP and POP switch, and also like control any devices that use RF or IR technologies to, like, for instance, like the garage door, like the thermostat and everything too. And we ended up, putting a prototype together, which is very rare for like most engineering products, to have a working prototype. And when we were doing that, the VP of engineering of a company called Vivint came over to us and told us, like, hey guys, amazing job. Have you guys thought about the business aspect of your idea? And we're like, no, we were like such nerds. And he basically told me how, Vivint, went about, raising capital, and also said that, essentially what we had was very, very, very similar to what Vivint was already selling in the market. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow. So what is venture capital all about? So that's how, I ended up, knowing more about venture capital, and I reached out to the Park City Angel Network, Ted, who and Andrew Gottman. They were like the ones that, brought me on board. Yeah, so it's been great. And then, as Silicon Valley is the mecca for venture capital, right? So I had to go there and really, dive in and develop my network. So it's been fantastic. Just as Molly was talking about the chocolate and also the coffee industry, I'm thinking of a startup that I'm doing some diligence right now, that apparently they come out with a way to grow coffee in a more sustainable way and scale that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta connect Molly with this company and everything too, right? So it's just beautiful, and I love the space. Yeah. So I hopefully, I answered your question, and I look forward to potentially, meeting in person this time. Thank you, Ben.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Wow. I do want to mention on this panel as a guest tonight, we have Rebecca Gonzalez, who also is from the class of 2014, and she is now a Spanish teacher at Park City High. So hi, Rebecca. Rebecca and Molly from the same class, two superstars from that class. I want to thank all I feel like we could go on for another hour. You guys do Park City proud. You do us proud. It's amazing what you're doing. And thank you for spending time with us tonight. And if anyone has any more questions for these guys, or you want to make connections, you all have my email, jbillow@pcschools.us, and I'll connect you. I want to thank all of our donors again, for making it possible for us to, support the future students. We're going to be having a panel with this year's graduates in 10 years. I just really quick, Mitch, can you share the slide of what PCEF is funding at the high school this year? So just super, super fast. I got to do a little promo for PCEF here. These are all the programs we fund at Park City High. On the far right there, you can see legacy grants. So these are grants we gave seed funding to, and we did give seed funding for the first college counselor, or, counselor Dara's job back, I think, in 2002. So again, something that was needed. There was a half-time person, and now there's 3 counselors, Dara 4. You heard these alumni talk about teachers who were mentoring them. Anna Williams, one of those, LIA teacher, is on this on the Zoom call tonight. Miko Jensen, who's a counselor, Deb Alcox, awesome math teacher, and more. So we just have amazing teachers at Park City High. And then Mitch, you can go ahead and share the next slide. So please, if you want to learn more about the Ed Foundation, we have our website, PCEF4kids.org, that has all kinds of information on it. Follow us on social media. We don't have as many followers as Joe with 135,000, but we could always use a few more, and you will see all students from preschool through high school, what they're doing on that social media. And of course, we cannot do what we do without your gifts. So we have Running with Ed coming up for those of you that are local or even not. So if you'd like to have a team or make a donation there. And then I do want to give a pitch. We have Monday evening at 6 p.m. a Bright Futures panel. So our Bright Futures seniors and our Bright Futures students are first generation students, and they're the first in their families to go to college. We start working with these students at the end of their freshman year in high school, and then we follow them all the way through college graduation. The 20 Bright Future seniors, class of 2021 at Park City High School, are going to announce their college decisions at this panel on May 3rd, which May 3rd is College Decision Day. So that's very exciting. We're running out of time. I wanted to read out the list of acceptances super quickly that we've heard about from the class of 2020. We have Yale, Columbia, Cornell, Penn, Dartford, Stanford, Northwestern, Michigan, U of Chicago, UC Berkeley, UCLA, Caltech, McGill, Wesleyan, Bowdoin, Georgetown, George Washington, Carnegie Mellon, USC, the list goes on. So if you're a parent on this call, your students are in amazing hands at this amazing public high school, and PCF is proud to support. I think we're at 7:59. And again, reach out to us anytime if you have any questions. Thank you to our panelists, and we hope to see you guys Monday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Dara.